I love painting those small paintings on site, but I absolutely love, just get this right, absolutely love ripping into a massive canvas. Those hills are a beautiful kind of pinky sort of colour. Those kind of ripples in it. Alright, g'day there. Richard Musgrave-Evans here again, and welcome back. Now today, what I'm going to do is, we've got a plein air painting, quite a large plein air painting that I did out in the field. I'll leave a link in the description below so you can check that video out. But pretty happy with it on the day. I'd gotten all the essential colours and tones and really got the basic feeling of that outback light in the midday. Perfect, there was plenty of flies, the whole works, it was a bit of fun, but anyway. Now when I get it home, what I like to do is leave the paintings for quite a while and don't really check them out too much. Just turn them around every now and then, have a look at them, face against the wall, turn them around every now and then. If one speaks to me, doesn't speak to me, turn it back. Happened with this one, the same sort of thing. A couple of months later I turn it around and I think, you know what, I really think I know what I need to do now to finish this painting. And so at the time, like I said, I'd captured the major colours and tones, but I just felt like all along it just needed a little bit more finish. And you don't want to go overboard with that, because over finishing a plein air painting can totally wreck the spontaneity that was achieved on the day, and that freshness and spontaneity is one of the major things that makes the painting. But at the same time, I want to bring it up to a higher level of realism, and I just want to alter the composition a little bit by manipulating a few colours and tones. Now, knowing when to stop is a good thing, and also trying to stay with the same technique. Like if you worked on site with big knives like so, then as you're finishing, try and do very similar to what you were doing on the day. Otherwise you can quite easily see the difference in technique, and they'll sit on top of each other instead of blending as a whole. Alright, so yes, I've got everything set up and ready to go, and I can do a few things and we'll get into it and I'll let you know what I'm thinking as we go. Alright, let's do this. Okay, now what I think I'll do is, what you've got to realise with this picture, the light was fairly much behind me, but ever so slightly across this way. So I want to maintain that sort of feeling. These distance hills were very high key because it was the middle of the day, everything was bleached out, outback Australia, bleached out light in that high key middle of the day. But at the same time, I just want to emphasise a few shadows maybe on this hill, but not too much because you wouldn't have seen much. Maybe just one or two little ones, just to give the feeling of form. And also, like I said before about manipulating colour and tone, these hills are multicoloured, like they're beautiful. It's the ancient seabed, the Flinders Ranges, that's what this is. Years and years ago, it was all, millions of years ago, hundreds of millions, it was all flat, and layers and sediments and layers have built up over the years. And then what's happened is the whole crust of the earth is upheaved on an angle like so and brought it up to about 45 degrees or whatever angle it is. And in doing that, then a lot of erosion has occurred over millions of years, and you're left with all these different layers in the hills as it's eroded, and you can see all the different sediments. So what we've got here, beautiful different rainbow colour effects I've used with the palette knife, and that's fantastic. And over here, there were some really light tones. Now that's great and that's how it was, but at the same time, that's pulling the eye a little out of the picture. I'd rather the eye goes into the gum trees and then runs through this way. So I really need a few lighter tones in these rocks here to pull your eyes, because your eyes tend to move towards light in a tonal painting like this. So, excuse me. So the darks and the lower key colours are good to start you off, and then you use light to pull your eyes into the picture. So I feel like maybe there should be a slight suggestion of a cloud here, and what that'll do, that'll be a light tone. That'll pull your eyes after the gum tree through and out that way. A little bit of a light tone there, pick up a bit of shadow just to highlight it a bit. A few branches for detail. That's basically what I've got planned, but not overdoing it. And also just refining that little bit. There's a little bit too much white looseness going here with the canvas showing through. Just finish it enough, not over the top that you lose that spontaneity like I was saying. Alright, in saying that, I'll mix up a bit of blue, some ultramarine blue, a bit of titanium white, lighten the tone off. Just feeling the colour for now. Let's have a look. Just want to... It's close. I might just put a little bit of magenta in, which will make it ever so slightly redder. Just want to pick out, like I said, a few shadows, not too many, because the shadows are very few and far between when the light's coming from behind you like that. Okay, so just pick a few out with the edge of the palette knife, because like I said, it was painted with a palette knife, so it's good to keep replicating that. Just lightly dragging so the high points of the painter, with the dry painter capturing the edge of this, and just flicking it up. So here we're getting just a little bit of shadow here and there. Now I'm just going to introduce a bit more white and ultramarine blue, so it's gone to a slightly lighter tone, and I won't use a magenta now, so it's got less of the red. As it recedes, it should get a bit lighter. Not that much lighter. That's too light. It's a very subtle thing, these distance. Okay, let's have a look what we got. It's close on what I wanted. Now some of that lighter stuff I might just, let's have a look. Yeah, it's not too bad. Just lighten her a little bit more. Just pick out a couple of shadows here and there. There we go. So that's giving you that feeling of, go slightly darker again. Just giving you that feeling of light and shadow and form without overdoing it, because like I said, the light's coming mainly from behind. I'll just stand back and have a look. Maybe just tweak one in here, not too many, because the further you go around that way, the more the sun's directly behind and you're getting zero shadows, and the more you go this way, the more you're looking around towards the light, so you're getting a few more shadows on this side. I'll stand back. Okay, well that's pretty good there. So now what I'll do, like I said, I'll get stuck into some of these lights, just blend them into that shadow, just picks up a few of those lighter tones. Alright, so there's going to be some yellow white, titanium white and yellow ochre, half mixed. I want that half mixed kind of rainbow colour. Some straight permanent magenta with some white, half mixed over here. Maybe a bit of burnt sienna and white, half mixed there, so I've got a whole lot of rainbow type colours, so we'll check it out. Pull some together. So, now go with the feeling. It had a real feeling of, you could feel the repetition in the ranges like this, as it bounced, as the ancient seabed went. So what I'm trying to do now is replicate that same feeling with a few highlights. Now I'll blend a few together, knock them back a little bit, so that it melts in and becomes acceptable instead of just sitting on the picture like it doesn't belong. There we go, just bring them in. Now you can see I've blended them in, and I'm trying to go with that same ancient seabed feeling like I was saying. I might just put a little bit in here. Keep down a tad there. I'll keep going here so we get lighten it a bit with yellow ochre and white. Pull through. Maybe even just get the edge of the paper towel and try and blend it into the original paint so it's softer. It's really starting to pull your eyes into the picture now. This is not as dominating as it was earlier. This is becoming the dominant source of light. So now your eyes are going from the main gum tree and flowing this way. Okay, I'll stand back and see I've got that. Alright, well that's all well and good. So now what I'll do is check out the next thing, and what I'll try and do is finish off the gum tree a little bit more, add a little bit of light and shadow, a little bit more refinement, and maybe put a cloud in there like I was saying earlier. I'll just see how it goes. I'm pretty excited about what I've done here. I can already see that the eyes are flowing that way more and kicking out this way than they were before. But if needs be, some of these beautiful ochres in the sky, I'll just pull up a little bit of cloud there maybe. First we'll get stuck into that tree. Like I said, the light's coming from this way. There'll be some branches hanging over our head that we can't see out of the picture. When the light's behind you like this, they quite often cast a shadow of one of the branches, and it really gives the feeling of form. I'll just try this one out. We'll go for ultramarine blue, magenta, and so just imagine that there's one of these branches. What it does, it really gives the feeling of form of the gum tree by giving that curvature around the edge. That's good. Now what I'll do is get the edge of the paper towel, because we're not working wet on wet now. We're working wet on dry, and I'll find the edge of the paper towel smeared like so, and still help give the illusion of wet on wet, so it looks like it was still done. Can still give you the feeling of that slippery slidey technique that was done on the day. And like I said, you want to keep, I might use my finger as well, you want to keep that original technique of the day going. So there we go, so that gives you the feeling of a branch up here. We'll say this is the branch. It's casting a shadow down, and then it shows you the form of the tree. It's a great way to show the form of the gum tree. Instead of being flat because the light's behind us, it starts to give that three-dimensional roundness. Alright, so it won't hurt also just to knock a little bit of a dark shadow here or there. Like so. I find when the light's behind in the middle of the day, particularly in Australia with that intense sunlight, just a few really darks, mainly light, like so, and it really pulls that illusion of sunlight out. Now this shadow cast in here is just a little bit hard maybe because it is a shadow. I'll use some burnt sienna to knock it down. So we've got ultramarine blue, burnt sienna and magenta. Now the burnt sienna is on the opposite side of the colour wheel because it's a type of an orange, I guess you could say, and that'll make it not quite as intense blue. It'll just knock it back to a slightly more grey blue, which is what I was kind of after. Now, like I said, I'll use this to smudge. I just want to give that feeling of softness. Well, I'll stand back and have a look at that. Not too bad, okay. And while we're on that, I'll just pick out a few shadows. You can see that there's another tree over here which is out of the picture. It's casting a shadow onto this tree. So there's going to be a lot of shadow going on here too. It'll help pick out the form, stick some shadow, soften. As I said, soften with my finger again. So now I'm helping to define the form of the tree, and at the same time make it more like it was on the day. There we go. So we're getting plenty of light and shadow there, which is a good thing. Piece of darkness there. A bit more darkness up here. Alright, now you guys got to stand back when you're doing this, which I'll do in a minute. I might just do. Let's just create a little bit of shadow there. Knock that off. There we go. Alright, now I'll stand back and have a look before I wreck it. Okay, now we've got that, what I feel like I need to do is, some of the, these trees are right on the edge of a dry creek bed, so you've got just here a bit of an orange bank. I might just play that up a little bit brighter here and knock some of that shadow out there, because that shadow is kind of repeating itself there and there. There's two shadows very similar. It's always good to have variety when you're painting, so I might just knock a little bit of that shadow out and soften and add a bit of orange there. Okay, let's do this. What will I use? Bit of cad yellow deep with some yellow ochre, a little bit of burnt sienna to help brown it a bit, bit of white to lighten the tone. Let's have a look what we've got. A bit more of that cad yellow deep. I want it to be quite bright there. So that's a really high key colour. That'll help, like I was saying before, a bit more burnt sienna. That high keyness in these areas can help draw your eye into the picture and out through this way. A bit more burnt sienna. Like I said, I just want to eliminate a bit of shadow there. A bit more burnt sienna in this mix to darken it a little bit. Just add a little bit. I think I'll use this. No, I'll use my finger. Let's have a go. There's a little bit of softening there. Some softening there, like I said. So I've got that blue, which is wet from a minute ago. Now I've got some fresh orange, which is wet. That way I can blend the two together and you get that wet on wet again, which helps to give the feeling that the whole painting was done in one go. And it's, in my opinion, that's very important if you're going to go for a loose, spontaneous plein air painting. When you're touching up, you want to keep that same feeling. So it was done wet on wet. It's good to try and keep that wet on wet feeling. All right. All right, well there you go. Oh dearie me. Okay, let's take a couple off. It's quite funny, they walk around, I'll get this little one off. They walk around and they leave little footprints from the blue sky and then walk into the gum tree or whatever, and so you get these tiny little footprints. Tiny little footprints. I just pick these little beggars out, leave one or two as trophies. Well, I'm pretty happy with what's happening here. I feel like I haven't really altered the actual day, so I feel like I'm staying true to what was happening on the day, but at the same time I'm just finishing that little bit more. Now, it wasn't a cloudy day and I was going to put some clouds in there, but I'm feeling by adding that there, that light source and this light source, I feel like adding clouds there is now becoming unnecessary, and that's good because I didn't really want to do it because I'm a bit of a purist in some ways. If it wasn't there on the day, I don't like to do it. But anyway, it doesn't mean you have to stick to that, but that's just the way I am. But what I will do is, to help introduce more into here, I'll just add more refinement on these twigs. So you've got some of these light toned trees coming down in here, so instead of playing up too much here, I'll put a bit of detail in here, which will bring your eyes in that way anyway. So hopefully that'll do it. All right, let's try this. Okay, so obviously it's going to be titanium white. More of that cad yellow deep. We'll just add. It's going to need a little bit more orange yellow. I've got the knife on edge. Now I'm just trying to pick out, like I was saying, very carefully with the knife on edge, picking out more details and getting the feeling of those beautiful branches, like so. And they're jumping off the screen. They're jumping off the canvas because orange, like I was saying, it's just such a perfect combination. And it's a really, I've said in other videos, when you've got the colour wheel, you've basically got red, yellow and blue. That's the three colours, and if you see it on a wheel, you'll put red up there, yellow and blue. Now, any combination of the two, yellow and blue here, mix the two together, you'll get green. Mix the yellow and red together, you'll get an orange on that, so that'll be there on the colour wheel. And mix the red and the blue together, you get a mauve over here. So anywhere where you've mixed that, whatever's on the opposite side will have the biggest impact. Okay, so like I was saying, blue, if you've got the red, blue and yellow, you mix that yellow and red together, it's directly opposite blue, so it gives you the strongest contrast. But if you were mixing with, say, if you had a green landscape, like green paddocks, the opposite side of that obviously would be red. So you wouldn't be using orange, you'd be using red to get that pop. Or if you were painting a sunset that had a lot of yellow in it, anything purple and dusty mauve would really pop against that, because that would be on the opposite side of the colour wheel. So that warm and cool contrast, hot and cold if you like, is a fantastic way to get a two-dimensional surface like this to pop like a three-dimensional world, like the world you see outside. Everything's in 3D outside, everything's 2D here. So we're using all the techniques we can to give the feeling of space and distance, and by doing that, that's popping out more. Okay, I'll get back into it. At least I've got time to talk here. When I'm actually painting on site, it's a lot harder, as you know, because everything's changing. So I'll just thicken up. Up here I've got some white canvas, that's pure white canvas, that's not actually a white trunk painted in. Quite often I'll leave the canvas, I've done it a lot through here. What I'll just keep extending on that and breaking it. I love to use broken colour. Instead of making the branch one continual line, I love to actually break it up so it's spotty, and it stops your eyes from following it too much, because your eyes will follow a straight line. So if you've got a line running like this, your eyes are going to go through the picture and they will get stuck on it. But if you don't want them to necessarily go that way, you break it up. And if you break it up, then it allows the viewer's eyes to flow whichever way you intended. If that wasn't the intention, to follow that line, break it, and then the viewer's eyes will more likely to go the way that you wanted them to in the picture. And it's very important to compose a picture like that, because if you just take a snapshot outside with a photograph, you'll notice straight away that it may look good as you're looking at it, but as soon as you take a photo, everything's just in the wrong spot. It doesn't seem to flow naturally. So for some reason, your eyes need to have it ordered on a two-dimensional surface. When you're in the outside world, you can do whatever you want. You don't need that order. You can see it yourself. You can focus on whatever you're interested in. But when it's on a flat two-dimensional surface, it needs to be organised so you can read it. And so breaking that line up is a good way to stop your eyes just following it. Alright, saying that, let's get back into it. Just a little bit more light here. I'm always going for variety in shape. I've done a lot of lines this way, so now I'm going this way to break it up. A little pop here and a little pop there. Might just go for some pure white now, because I've got a lot of orangey colours there. Just a little bit of pure. Okay, so we're getting that. That's looking good. Just go by feel. Just adding a little bit here and there. Okay. Might just thicken that up, that branch. A bit more white. Now this area here is the keynote. This is the main tree. I might just put a bit more white here to really give the feeling of intense Australian sunlight. We've got the pure light there, and then it's folding around the tree and getting softer and slightly darker in tonal value as it rolls around. Okay, pretty happy with what's going on here. A little bit more white here maybe. Happy days, happy days. Alright, here we go. Little dots and fine lines always give the illusion of detail. So, just through here, I'd put that beautiful soft shadow and I'd put some high key rich orange there so your eye's getting drawn to there. But just putting a tiny dot or something like this of colour will really give the illusion of way more detail than there actually is. It's got to be random of course, but a few dots like that in the right spots what that does, it just finishes in the painting. So you've got these big broad marks and hard and soft, and as soon as you put a few specks, it just all of a sudden feels like there's something refined going on. So when people stand back, they're feeling that there's a finished painting, and that's obviously the goal. But at the same time, when they get close, it's still all about paint, and it's still quite wild and broad and just chunky and impasto and beautiful. So it's a great way to get that detail without putting detail in, I guess. It's without wrecking that. If you want a beautiful painting up close, which is all about paint rather than all about photorealism, then these are a few techniques that will allow you to do that. Okay, just eliminate some of the white canvas that's showing through there with a bit more of a blue shadow. Feeling the form, use the finger again to soften. Always a good technique. Soften that area off. It's less visually important to the eye. That's blended beautifully, right? Maybe just get the finger and soften that a bit too. Just trying to blend some of those areas, so you've got light and shadow, hard and soft, lost and found. It's all about just reading the painting. Like I said, I still want to keep it spontaneous and fresh and not overworked. But at the same time, I just want to finish it that little bit more. Add a bit more of that realism. So it's always a blend between just putting the right amount in and not too much, just feeling it as you go. Right, so yes. Just key some of these areas down, soften them a little bit. Take your eye out of that area. Alright, now just got to mix up a bit of sky colour there, so go for a bit of blues and a tiny bit of, just checking out what level of sky we're at there, so okay. Ultramarine blues, bit of yellow ochres, just trying to, okay, so there's more yellow ochre and burnt sienna in that. I'll just drag a bit of that in. Bit more burnt sienna, just matching the colour of the sky in that area. Just, there's a bit of white canvas there, I'll take a little bit of it off. Go a tad darker to match. Tad darker up there with more ultramarine blue. So I'm painting in the negative space there. Blending it with the finger or whatever you need to blend it with to make it marry itself between the old and the new. It's coming along. Just trying to blend a little bit of blue here. I feel like maybe I need some blue there, not too much. Just to give that warm and cool flow throughout the painting. Okay, so a bit of highlights here and there. I'll just get a little bit of cad yellow and white. Just pick out a little bit of detail on there. Just feeling the picture as I go, just feeling what needs to be done. Blend it again so it's married itself to the picture. Pick out a bit more draftsmanship here and there. It's coming along, good. Coming along, maybe just a bit of a highlight here. Just get a bit of pure white. Pull some so she pops there. Alright, better have a look at that. Okay, now like I said, get a bit of blending going on with the old fingers and whatever. That's a nice softening, so it brings the two together. Just a bit more orange. I just want to make it pop a bit more in the focal areas. Maybe just introduce a little bit here, pull the tree out to improve the draftsmanship and also that warm tone, just to make the focal area really pop with some contrasts. Lightly drag a couple of contrasts in here. It's all about feel, like I said. Maybe a spot there. And like I said, you don't want to overdo it. That's pretty much, looking at it now, I could keep on going forever and totally wreck it or whatever. Just see what happens there. But at the same time, I do feel like I've improved it, but not overworked it. And that's the biggest thing with plein air painting. To be able to stay with the original concept of the day and the original freshness of the day, but also to just finish that a little bit more and just to get the composition to flow a little bit more how you intended. Softening the edge so it goes around. Pulling the paint up to the edge of some white exposed canvas, and that white exposed canvas there looks like a branch. Alright, well, I'm pretty happy with what's going on now. I feel like I've achieved what I was after. I wanted a picture that was slightly more finished, and I also wanted it to flow better, the composition. I felt like the composition was kind of pulling away a little bit, and that's because I had the lightest hills over here, by lightening these ones and also putting a bit more finish, I've drawn the viewer's eyes this way. And like I said, I was considering putting some clouds to help draw the viewer's eyes that way, but I'm glad I didn't have to do that because I like to keep it how it was on the day. And as it was a beautiful blue sky day, so that's pretty good. So what I did to get the eyes to go that way is, as you saw, we've got these branches and whatever. And I've just, right at the very end, I thought I'd just gut the rigger out and just put a couple of flecks. Fantastic brush for doing that. Just putting those finishing touches, and it really pulls up the finish and the detail. So now, when you stand back a bit, you really get the feeling that you're looking at the real world. But when you're up close, because it was done on site, it's got that broad, positive, fast technique, which is something that you get, that accuracy. It's kind of a broad accuracy that you get from working on plein air, because you can see the direct colours and tones that are there on the day, and because you've got no time to put them in, basically, you tend to get a rugged accuracy, and that's what I love about plein air painting. But now I feel like this painting needed a little bit more. I left it a few months, I worked out what it needed, and now I've done that, and so now I'm pretty happy with the results. All right, well, what we'll do now is we'll get that camera off, have a closer look, and see what you think. Now, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. That way you'll be made aware of any of these videos as I upload them. And if you like the video, give the thumbs up, spread the good word to all your mates, and just share it around in general. All right, let's get that camera off. Thanks again for watching, and we'll have a closer look and see what you reckon. Okay, thank you.